Yeah. So let's. I guess we should talk about the elephant in the room then, huh? I mean, we don't need to beat a dead horse. Yesterday was one of the biggest. It might be the biggest NFL meltdown I've ever seen. I didn't have any. I don't have any words for it. I don't understand. Even more so than last year, allowing the Jags to beat them. Now, the Patriots beat the Dolphins, or the Dolphins beat the Patriots in Miami for like the fourth time or fifth time in a row. The Jags beat the Colts in Jacksonville for the sixth time in a row. There's some places it's just tough to win. But I'm telling you, man, I don't need to convince either of you that should not have happened. It should not have happened at all. We have defended the Ginger Jesus on this show repeatedly. And everything that we said to defend him was absolutely correct. The guy had a shitty season last year. He comes to a new team. Preseason's disrupted. He's got COVID. He's got injuries. He's got a confidence problem. There's so many things. But, dude, with this running game, all the guy had to do was manage the game and every once in a while just flick a complete pass for a first down. And he couldn't even do that the last 2 weeks. And I've just been waiting through all the conversations we've had. I've waited for him to step up and be the quarterback that Frank Reich has said that he could be, and it didn't happen. So now we're stuck, man. From a personnel standpoint, and I'm not talking about from a fan standpoint. And there's so many people. I think I texted you guys yesterday. Somebody already was like, "This wouldn't have happened had we kept Brissett." So thank God somebody said we would have been blown out by 40. But I mean, do you invest? And Hefe, I know you know a lot more about the contract situation. I do know to cut our losses right now and for them to walk away from him and go in another direction is way cheaper than it's going to be if they keep him. So it's a hell of an investment to keep him around another year. I know Frank Reich is saying all the right things. This is our guy, blah, 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 blah. But in the end, it's not going to be completely his decision. Irsay's been around the block a whole lot of times. Ballard's going to have something to say. You guys think he'll be back next season? Do you think he should be back next season?
So, all right. I think next year they will have Wentz and they will have Reich back. And this is the put up or shut up year for either or of those two gentlemen. This team is way too stacked. We had the most Pro Bowlers in the entire NFL on one team, and then you get
the playoffs.
No, you get beat by the worst team in the league, who has the number one draft pick. They were absolutely dominated. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
So it's I think next year is going to be the put up or shut up year for both of them. Honestly, if there is a better hire out there, I think the problem with Reich is I think he needs to give up the play calling. And I kind of alluded to that earlier in the season. Very questionable play calls throughout the year that have cost us football games and cost us a chance to go to the playoffs, and you just can't have that. So I think he needs to give up the play calling. When it comes down to it, both of them will have one more year to show what they can do with this team. If not, a change needs to be made. The only exception I would probably make this offseason would be to bring in Aaron Rodgers. That's all I got to say about that. No, seriously, because he's going to be a free agent. So, I mean,
but I think, I mean, he's not coming in. Yeah.
I don't know. Get Pat McAfee in his ear a little bit more, you know. Might come hang out, be buddy.
That's possible, and it's a turnkey operation. I mean, he walks in, they're Super Bowl contenders right out of the gate.
Oh yeah,
but the guy's in a pretty good situation where he is, and he's from out west. I mean, never say never, right? I mean, maybe.
One can hope, but when it comes down to it, I think both of them have 1 year.
Well, and I think you're right. I don't want to get. I want to hear what Hefe has to say, but I think you're right from the standpoint that I think if Reich went in another direction at quarterback, then maybe he, depending on what happens with injuries or whatever the case may be. But I think if he if he hangs on to Wentz, man, he stands in front of him. I think he's living or dying on that hill. I
Oh,
don't think.
he's already made that commitment because you just gave up a first round pick for Carson Wentz. So
Yeah,
you've taken away that opportunity to have a future, and so they're tied at the hip at this point. They're stuck together for next year unless a big name like Aaron Rodgers or somebody comes about that you're able to
Kirk
snag
Cousins,
up and make them a.
Matt
Yeah,
Ryan.
honestly, I would take Kirk. I don't know about Matt Ryan. He's getting a little ancient, but Kirk Cousins, he's a pretty solid quarterback. He had 33 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions this year. It was their defense that held the Vikings back. So yeah, they're tied at the hip in my opinion. So I think they will have one more year, and yeah, it's prove it time.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it doesn't make sense with the way Carson's contract is structured. It doesn't make sense to let him go now. It's if you cut him, there's a $15 million cap hit anyway. So you keep him on the roster. You have Sam Ellinger to back him up, and the limited action that we were able to see him, he looked athletic and could make some good throws. So that's something where, just like Brad was saying, I've been right there as one of Carson's biggest supporters. I try to spin things in ways that it's going to be okay. Carson's going to figure it out. But what we saw, not only just you talk about the last 4 weeks of the season, right? It's time to go. It's time to get in playoff mode. The rest of the team was going. Outside of one drive in Arizona, Carson Wentz didn't do shit for 4 weeks of the season in the most important time of the season. And what we wanted to see from the beginning of the year to the end of the year was growth. We didn't need you to be Superman from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. We needed to see you grow, and we didn't
appeared
see
to be growing up until about 4 weeks ago.
Right, and which again is the most key part of the season, and I don't want to put that all on Carson because I do think that Frank calling the plays is a problem. He needs to. I don't know if Marcus Brady's the play caller. Probably not. You need to find an OC that can call the plays and take care of the offense, so you as a head coach can handle the responsibilities. It's your responsibility to get to use other coaches to delegate, so that you can worry about the big picture, so that you can worry about getting your guys ready for the most important games of the fucking year. They didn't have that. Every time you watch Hard Knocks, Colts in season, what do you see? It's Frank Reich sitting in the quarterback room. Frank Reich needs to be able to address the entire team. He needs to delegate that position to somebody else. So I agree also that he needs to get rid of the play calling dude. That's going to continue to hold him back at this point. He's 4 seasons in, and you talk about your players getting better all the time. You need to practice what you preach. You got to get better. You have to see what's working, what's not working. And right now, Frank has some self-evaluation that needs to happen, because if they don't go and win with the way this roster is, with the way Chris Ballard has put this roster, there's so much talent on both sides of the ball. Eberflus is lucky that he has so much talent on that side of the ball because his defense is dog shit. And Frank, if he doesn't win 12 games in a playoff game next year, then you talk about him being on the hot seat next to any other coach.
Yeah, well, the Indianapolis fans are pissed, and rightfully so. I'm pissed. I'm not ready to put Reich in front of a firing squad because I believe in what he's doing. I don't have any excuses. There are no excuses for what happened, especially the last 2 weeks. But Indianapolis, at least half of the fan base wants him gone, and I would think if they don't win 12 games and miss the playoffs next year, Irsay will have no choice. I don't care how much he likes the guy, how much he believes in what he's doing. At that point, it's a PR disaster to keep the guy any longer, and it may be close to that now, unless they can come out and win. And I think he's the guy for the job. But some changes have to be made. Obviously some of the things we talked about here, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch more. And Reich said a lot of the right things today. That they're going to break all the film down. They're going to try to figure out what was going on. And but none of that matters, man. W's are the only thing that matters. So, all right. So Flores and Watson to Indianapolis.
I'd stay far and clear away from Watson at this point. But hey, Flores might be a good hire.
Yeah.
And hey, what about this? Vic Fangio taking over DC.
I love that. As soon as he lost his job, that's what I was hoping was
that's
that
a good call right there.
On the defense. Yep.
That's a real good call. I hadn't even thought about that.